If you're visiting tonight and you're not a Christian, this is the center of Christianity. Listen, please listen very carefully. This is the center. This is different from all Islam, all Shintoism, all Buddhism, all Hinduism, all secularism, all animism. Nobody, no religion has this. A Son of God and something called justification by faith alone. So here we are in this courtroom, guilty, sinners, all of us, and the judge renders the verdict righteous. Now, how can that be? That's what Romans is about. How can that be? Let me put it in 3 steps. The ground underneath this outrageous verdict. Let me put the ground in 3 steps. Step number 1, we trust Jesus alone as the ground and the basis of our justification. Not anything we do, not anything we are, and not anything God helps us to do. We trust Jesus Christ alone as the ground and basis of that verdict. Second, that's number 1. Second, this faith, as I look totally away from John Piper and all that he is by nature and all that he is by grace, I look totally away from John Piper to Jesus alone as my ground of justification and my basis of justification. And in that faith and through that faith, I am united to Christ. A union with Christ happens. The way to see this is to put Romans 5:1 beside Romans 8:1. You can remember that. Put Romans 5:1 beside Romans 8:1. Romans 5:1 says, therefore, having been justified by faith. Romans 8:1 says, there is therefore now no condemnation, the negative way of saying justification, no condemnation in Christ Jesus. Now, if you put those on top of each other, let the template fall. The in Christ Jesus corresponds to by faith. That's why I'm saying that when you trust Him, in and through that a union is established. So that you're now in Him. You're in Him. That's step 2. Step 3. In Him, His righteousness, His obedience, or you could say God's righteousness in Him. I won't be picky about how we say it. I think all these are right ways of saying it. In Him, His righteousness is, the word that's used in the ESV is counted as ours. The more historical word is imputed to us. Those are the 3 steps that provide the ground underneath this courtroom so that God's declaration of me as righteous finds some basis in reality. You know, it is one thing to be forgiven when you are unrighteous. It is a glorious thing. Let us never minimize the preciousness that God forgives sins because of the work of Christ on the cross. Forgiveness, too, would be an outrage were it not for the cross. But I cannot escape the exceeding wonder that not only does God look upon a guilty person in the courtroom and exercise clemency and forgive him and say, you're guilty, I forgive you, go and sin no more. But He also, beyond all imagination, looks upon this guilty sinner and does not just say, you're guilty, I forgive you. He says, you're not guilty. I mean, forgiveness is understandable, just a little bit understandable. We kind of had some way to get our hands around forgiveness. You let it go. You don't hold it against them. But this, look me right in the face, John Piper right in the face, sinner though I am, and say, righteous.